Here to serve you and your family's needs in elder law, estate planning, and estate administration. Call Crosswhite Law today, 704-873-7233.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
Well, good Friday morning, everybody. This is Senator Vicki Sawyer here with not David Coble. I don't know if you guys know the fellow to my right here. I kind of have a thing with your name. I have to always say all three things. I can't just say Judge or Griffin. It's got to be Judge Jefferson Griffin.
Well, I got two last names, so it's a lot.
All right, so tell everyone who you are.
Judge Jefferson Griffin. I have the honor of serving you currently at the North Carolina Court of Appeals. Most importantly, I am a husband to my wife, Katie.
Yeah.
And I have two young children, Annie and Jay, 8 months old and 2.5.
Wow.
Also have the honor to serve our state and our country, the North Carolina National Guard. Currently, I'm the senior defense counsel for North Carolina.
Yeah.
And so very glad to serve there as well.
How do you have time? What do you do? I mean, okay, so
very efficient.
Oh, okay. Is that what it is?
Very efficient.
That is what it is. Okay, I agree. So, you and I, first of all, I need to give you a public apology. I was completely prepared for you last week. And I came in and like a few minutes later, you were so kind. You was like, I have you down for next week. So again, my calendar and I continue to battle and I'm losing the battle.
Well, it's okay. We both of us can fill time. We
Yeah,
know how
that's
to we know how to do that. There's no problem there.
That's true. But you when we were talking just a moment ago, you hit on something that was really cool. And you obviously are busy just as a father and as a current appeals court judge and, as a husband and gosh, with being a JAG and everything else you're doing. And now you're running statewide. But why? What's the why? And I think you hit it. And if you don't mind me, asking you to tell everybody the why, because I think it's the most important reason.
Yeah, it's well, if you look at the total picture of things, it's like, well, we need good people to step up and serve. And, neither one of us would be doing this if we didn't feel that way, if we didn't feel like we were the right person to be able to step into these roles and big picture type thing. I mean, I'm sure one day you'll be glad when you're done with your service, just like I will. But right now, especially now, we need good people to step up and run for office and support people, good people who are running for office and be able to go out there and tell the truth. And that's been my opportunity to serve at the court that way. And I felt like now was a very important time for me to step up and run for the Supreme Court here in North Carolina.
Yeah. So I've haven't had the pleasure of like sitting down and talking with you before. So, cause we are both kind of busy, but I do know you by reputation. And it's a good reputation. Like
Well,
I
good.
hear nothing.
I'll pay them later.
Yeah, I know. I hear nothing but just like these kind of comments: salt of the earth, level-headed, hard worker, and that is, the politics world in Raleigh, especially, is a small circle. So it's kind of like a bad family reunion sometimes. If you don't show up, you're on the table. If you're not at the table, you're on the table. Well, when you're not been at the table, you have been absolutely spoken of very highly. And I'm just proud of you for continuing your service.
Well, thank you. That's how I got elected to the bar presidency in Lenoir County one time. I didn't show up to a meeting, so it's nice that people were saying good things when I wasn't there. But I've had a lot of great life experiences. North Carolina has been just fantastic to me. I grew up on a small farm in Nash County in Red Oak, and between undergrad and law school, I worked on fishing boats on the North Carolina coast. I got my captain's license and did that for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And so, I think that helps me relate to a lot of different folks. We're not just all sitting up there in the ivory tower at the court. Like we've got some folks who've got real life experiences and that's part of the good side of campaigning for judicial officials is that people get to see that side of us.
Yeah.
And they know that there's some good salt of the earth, regular folks that are serving them even in the judiciary.
Yeah. So we had Judge Valerie Zachary on not too long ago. She did a fabulous job and she had shared some of her stories.
Valerie doesn't do poorly at many things.
No,
I'm sure she did a great job.
She did fantastic. And now, okay, so she was Harvard educated. We got to say Harvard, as she said in her Yakanese. You are Chapel Hill.
Yep. Went to UNC undergrad, North Carolina Central for law school. So I stayed in state. And I was kind of conflicted being a Tar Heel. I'm doing a graduate program at Duke starting next year. So I didn't know if I wanted to hang a Duke degree, but I'm looking forward to that experience.
Hey, that's awesome. I mean, kind of like a coat of many colors.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the patchwork that makes North Carolina great.
It is. And my wife's a Wake grad, so we're slowly picking them all off.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's good.
So I grew up in Winston-Salem, and when I was in high school, I would go onto Wake campus and go to the library to study and pretend that I was like a student. And I felt so like special because that is just Wake Forest is just a beautiful campus and special place. And
it is. I married into a Wake Forest family. My in-laws both went there, and I didn't know how much Wake Forest didn't like Carolina until I started dating Katie. And I went down. It was after one of the hurricanes. They're from Lumberton, and I went down to. Katie and I were living in Raleigh, and we went down. We had just started dating, and we're going to take supplies, water. They were in very kind of austere conditions, and the only thing they noticed when I rolled up was her mom said, "Is that a Carolina license plate on the front of your truck?"
Oh, dang!
So I figured that one out quick.
I mean, it's just all kind of like nice little rivalry, anyways,
It's
fun. And that's what's interesting to me about North Carolina in statewide politics. We'll talk a little bit about that across the after the break because. It seems like when I was growing up, so I'm almost 50 now. God, that sounds terrible to say, almost 50. But as a lady of almost 50 years of age, oh, believe me, that it seemed like when we were growing up, it was like State versus Carolina versus Duke. It was all ACC, but everybody actually watched the game, right? I mean, we all were basketball fans or football fans. Not Chapel Hill football fans, but anyways, so, and we all kind of cheered for the different teams, but at the same sport. But North Carolina is changing so much. And I want to talk about some of your experiences across, like from Murphy to Manteo in this last little bit after the break about, how things have changed from where you came from and now where we are and just what you see in North Carolina. So we just got a couple more minutes left. You're Eastern North Carolina fella.
I am. Red Oak. Great place to grow up.
So Nash County is just right outside of Raleigh, right? If it's to east and north of Raleigh?
It's about timing-wise, it's about a 45-minute drive east, but it seems like it's the population is getting closer and closer every time I go home.
Yeah, they're coming. They're coming, just like here in that area.
Yeah.
And then after graduating, you went to Kinston to become a lawyer, right?
I did. I passed the bar, went to Kinston. That was my first job down there in about a medium-sized law firm. Did some insurance defense work. Just an awesome place to cut my teeth and get great experience. I had fantastic mentors. A lot of, sometimes kids go to they all want to go to bigger cities.
Yeah.
But one thing we've been pushing from our perspective of the appellate courts within our bar and professionalism is don't be scared to go back to a smaller town in a rural area because you'll get great experience, great mentors, and they need lawyers in rural areas. We have some legal deserts. So I had an awesome experience. I ended up moving back to Wake to join the DA's office, and that was a great experience as well. But Kinston was a fantastic people. And a great place to really cut my teeth in the law.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear, and it's a great. I think good things are coming for Eastern North Carolina as I see. It seems like it's starting to get over that hump a little bit. But
we've always had tremendous people.
Yeah, agreed.
And so we've gone through some transition, and with agriculture in our state changing.
Yeah.
But there's.
I mean, the only thing I can really say about Kinston is that as a girl from Lexington, their barbecue's just okay. Thank you for listening to We're Just Saying. We'll be right back after the break.
Stay with us. We'll have more of We're Just Saying with NC Senator Vicki Sawyer after this short break on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, drier weather making a comeback as we get into the upcoming weekend. Partly cloudy, low 80s for our Friday afternoon. A stray shower, not any question. Most of us will stay dry. Dropping back into the mid-60s overnight for our weekend. Fall starts officially on Sunday, although it's not going to be very falling. It'll be warm and humid. Mainly dry Saturday and Sunday with high temperatures for the weekend in the low to mid-80s. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The WSIC app is available now wherever you get your apps, featuring local deals from great local businesses like Greystone Lodge in Boone.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. This Friday night, the monthly car show Hot Rods and Hops returns to RevFast. The late Apex Storage Condos on Cayuga Drive in Mooresville welcomes the slickest and fastest cars, motorcycles, trucks, racing, and high-performance machines. Food trucks will be on hand for delicious dinners, and Hoptown Brewing will be serving up cold beer. Get your weekend started off right with Hot Rods and Hops this Friday night at 6 p.m. at the late Apex Storage Condos in Mooresville. Brookdale Village's Live Under the Oaks concert series is also happening on Friday night. Ryan Winters will be playing on the Brookdale stage in Huntersville beginning at 6 p.m. Food and beverages will be for sale at the many restaurants around the village. Grab your chairs and your friends for the Ryan Winters concert Friday night at Brookdale Village in Huntersville. Movie in the Park is happening September 20th in downtown Huntersville. The show at Veterans Park on Main Street and Maxwell Street is open to the public free of charge. Bring your blankets and lawn chairs for an evening under the stars with the showing of Space Jam on a big screen. Movie in the Park begins at 7:30 p.m. at Veterans Park in Huntersville on Friday. The NHRA returns to ZMAX Dragway this weekend for the Carolina Nationals. When the temperatures cool down, the excitement heats up at the Bellagio of drag strips. Every ticket is a pit pass, giving fans unmatched access to the drivers and crews who power the NHRA's thunderous 11,000 horsepower machines to their limits. Visit CharlotteMotorspeedway.com for information, tickets, and details.
The Renaissance Festival is back Saturdays and Sundays, October 5th through November 24th. A non-stop outdoor family adventure. Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com while supplies last.
To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
It's We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicky Sawyer on 105.9 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to We're Just Saying on WSIC 105.9 FM, 107 FM, 1400 AM. I never do that, so I figured why not is to go ahead and make sure to plug the show the radio station that we're on. And I am Senator Vicky Sawyer, and I am here with Judge Jefferson Griffin, appeals court judge from Eastern North Carolina. And we're going to talk about some really cool stuff. So you graduated from Chapel Hill, much to the chagrin of your in-laws. But apparently you made it through. You made the cut. You're still there.
Yeah.
They love you.
We're there.
All is good. Hey, you gave them grandbabies. I mean, how can they not like you?
They moved close to us. So they must.
They must. You're in.
It's okay.
You're in. Okay.
Okay.
But before that and after Chapel Hill, you did something that's like completely amazingly cool.
Well, I thought it was pretty cool. I was originally had planned to go to Marine OCS right out of Carolina, and then I tore my knee up, and it got delayed. And so I'd always grown up going to Brunswick County to the coast.
Yeah.
My grandmother built a small house down there right after Hurricane Hazel. So there was literally nothing there. It was right across from Ocean Isle Beach.
Now, for those folks who haven't been in North Carolina long, let's see, Hurricane Hazel was back in the 60s, right? And it was
50s.
like devastating.
Yeah, I mean, it flattened there. I mean, it was everything was gone. And she was living in Whiteville in Columbus County, and they moved down there. So my mom grew up there. So I mean, every trip when I was a child was growing up, going to Ocean Isle, and playing in the waterway and clamming and oystering and fishing, and so that was kind of the salt water was kind of in my blood, and I decided I was going to give fishing a shot after I had my knee reconstructed and everything else, and so got my captain's license. And
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
This may be a little too deep.
No.
What was the conversation like with your parents after you just graduated from Chapel Hill with a degree and you go, man, I'm going to put that on the shelf and I'm going to go fishing? How did that go?
I mean, truthfully, they were pretty supportive.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I think they always knew that I was driven enough to make something work.
Yeah.
So I was the only child, and so I have to give my parents a lot of credit. They really didn't hover. They didn't, but they supported me, and they were like, yeah, go do it.
Okay.
Support yourself, do it.
All right. Well, sorry, I didn't mean to get too deep into the family vault, but I could
No.
imagine, because I have 2 daughters, one that's going to finish graduating in the fall from UNC Charlotte, go Niners. The other one's at ECU. And after the blood, sweat, and tears of getting them through college, and they're like, hey, Mom, I'm just going to go follow the dead for a year or something like that. It would be a hard conversation. So good for your parents for being supportive.
And truthfully, working on a boat is not easy.
Yeah, tell me about that.
The ocean is not always a pleasant place, especially off our coast. And, I did a lot of recreational fishing, and so, people come down and they hire your boat and they want to go, and you're like, hey, sir, ma'am, it may not be the prettiest day on the ocean today. This might not be a lot of fun for you, but we're here and we want to go. So you go.
So you had a charter boat. So like if I were a vacationer, then I would call you.
Right.
And then you take me out fishing.
Yeah.
Now, let's see, if you're coming out of Brunswick, so you're not going into the Gulf. Would it do a lot of backwater fishing, or what
we still did some offshore fishing. I worked on a private boat there, and then we moved up to Carteret County.
Oh, okay.
And so up there, a little more offshore fishing, closer to the Gulf Stream. And I worked on a couple private boats, and so we fished tournaments.
Yeah. Did you fish the Big Rock?
Yeah, I fished the Big Rock before.
That's like a dream of mine.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, come on. We can find you a boat.
Oh, my God. I would so love to. Okay, so when my husband and I and the kids were younger, we would trailer a boat. We had an Everglades, a little 25-foot Everglades. We'd trailer it all the way down to the Gulf Coast of Florida, and we would go back. I mean, we literally would leave in the morning, and we wouldn't come out in the evening. Now, that whole day, the kids and us, we were on the boat. We had so much, we had a lot of fun fishing. There wasn't a lot of catching. In fact, when we would have to go into the harbor, we named our boat El Cacciatore Pollo, which was chicken hunter, because we would come off of the ocean.
That's good.
And we would go directly to the restaurant and eat chicken wings. So we figured no matter what the day was, we would always be eating chicken at the end of it.
I like it. So it was a fun phase of life. I learned a lot of hard work. One thing about working on boats is like you learn how to talk to all different kinds of people too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, as you're sometimes you're entertaining folks, you're making sure they're having a good time, and so that was a good life skill as well. And eventually decided I wanted to go back into service and go to law school.
Yeah. And so you fished the Big Rock. Did you finish any of the money?
No, we never won big. I'm not a terrible fan of killing a kill tournament.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big fish are kind of majestic. I mean, I get it. I when you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you catch a big one, you kill it. That's what the game is. So I don't necessarily seek out the kill tournaments. I love catching big marlin. I've caught a bunch of big marlin.
Have you?
Yeah.
It's a dream of mine. Never have.
It's pretty wild. It's a lot of monotonous days. I mean,
sure.
Marlin fishing can be very slow.
Yeah.
But when it happens,
it's so cool.
It's there's nothing like it.
So we have chartered several people because the chicken hunter was not going to catch a tarpon, but down on the East Coast, on the Gulf Coast of Florida, tarpon fishing is really, really big. And we hooked one time, and you don't really hook a tarpon, right? You just kind of they decide if they're going to hang on or not with their spony mouths. But I will, to this day, I can close my eyes and I can see the picture of it hitting and zinging up and hit, and it's just like the most, now it's as close as it got to the boat, but it was really cool for those like 30 seconds that I had that tarpon on, but it's just, I just enjoy fishing too. So good for you.
It's and now, I mean, I'll have less time obviously to do it, but it's one of those things where you can take your mind off everything else.
Yeah.
And especially with just the things that stack up in our lives.
Yeah.
Like I think we all, whatever it might be, hunting, fishing, sports, whatever your release is, like, that is the healthiest thing we can do to get things off our plate for a minute.
I'm putting on my to-do list, maybe after a campaign fishing trip that we need to do and get some folks out there
That'd be awesome.
Let's do it. Like
it's after 45 days out or something after that.
Who's counting? How many days left to the election? I mean, who's even counting? Yeah, I am totally in. In fact, yes. So took the women, Republican women, on a fishing trip not too long ago, just as a down
That's
in
awesome.
Beaufort, and it was just really a lot of fun.
Well,
Now,
you didn't tell me you're in Carteret County.
yeah, well, okay, so I have to tell a secret. I shouldn't tell a secret, but I'm gonna tell a secret. We didn't catch a thing, but I did have someone go to the local fish market and get the biggest fish they could purchase. And we have some really good pictures with those if we got.
That is a secret. I mean,
you heard it here first.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're the most honest fisherman or fisher person I've ever met.
Well, I mean, somehow when, you look at the fish and it's not really moving that well, I think you would be able to tell that it had seen an ice bath recently. And but it's a fun inside joke for all of us women fishermen that we caught.
Well, let us know next time you come to Carteret County, and we'll make sure that we
you'll do
arrange
that.
some fish.
All right, that sounds good. Now that your fishing days were past, we're going to move over, and you went to Central Law School. Yeah. They're doing great things over there. I think it's not a lot of people realize that they have a great college for law, but it seems like I keep running into a lot of folks who graduated there and are doing great things like yourself.
Yeah, a lot of our graduates stay in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Especially compared to the other schools, and so it builds a pretty solid network already within the legal profession, which is very significant for what we do. But they prepared me well for the bar exam, and I had a great experience there. I serve on the board of visitors now.
Oh, good.
Over there at the School of Law.
Yeah.
So looking forward to hopefully improving some of the stuff there and in the clinical realm. I was talking to the dean the other day, and I hope to be a leader there and hopefully presenting some stuff to the General Assembly maybe that might be of interest.
Oh, another revelation here first.
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
Well, I heard they're kind of jerks that they don't listen to what you guys say. We just tell y'all what to do. No, I'm just kidding. That's what I'm hearing.
I'll just report the facts. Y'all are the policy decision makers.
Yeah, I know. There's a healthy respect. There are 3 branches of government for a reason. There are. And then, gosh, you went from Lenoir County, Kinston, to the DA's office in Wake. I mean, was that a culture shock, or did you kind of know what you're getting into? How was that?
One of my best friends from law school was working in the office, so I had an idea. But it was, I went from a very small collegial bar to a large bar that, provided just some anonymity just because of the size.
Yeah.
But the DA's office there was fantastic. I had some really great mentors in that office, and I got to try a little bit of everything and then a lot of everything.
I bet.
And this is the volume of cases that, we used to pick on Mecklenburg County because they had like 10 more DAs than we did, or assistant DAs, and we would try, like twice the cases.
So
it was like a little rivalry between the two big counties,
What? Yeah.
And
Wake
so
and Meck.
we said we were doing twice the work with fewer prosecutors, but I'm sure both good offices. I still have some friends in the Wake office, and and know a few in the Meck office now.
Yeah, so I could just imagine, your track all across Eastern North Carolina and how amazing that must be enriching in your life. I mean, I love our state, right? And that's why I serve. Other reasons, but one of the reasons is I just love our state, and it seems like that's coming through with you too.
Oh, it's been a tremendous place for me. It's where I'm going to live. It's where my family's going to grow, and everything that we can do to make sure we have opportunity here for everybody is awesome.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, and I think by the end of this year we're supposed to be the 8th most populous state. Isn't that hard to believe? Yeah.
Well, you are listening to We're Just Saying with Senator Vicky Sawyer and Judge Jefferson Griffin. We'll be right back after the break.
We'll return with more of NC Senator Vicky Sawyer and We're Just Saying after this short break on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, drier weather making a comeback as we get into the upcoming weekend. Partly cloudy, low 80s for our Friday afternoon. A stray shower, not out of the question. Most of us will stay dry. Dropping back into the mid-60s overnight for our weekend. Fall starts officially on Sunday, although it's not going to be very fall-y. It'll be warm and humid. Mainly dry Saturday and Sunday with high temperatures for the weekend in the low to mid-80s. That's your forecast. WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Folks, here at Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville, we have got the brand new 2025 Chevrolet Traverse in stock, all redesigned from front to back, top to bottom, inside and out. Come see them today. We have got a great selection of these new Traverses ready for you to take home. And also, we got great discounts on our Silverado trucks. We got the regular cab, crew cab, double cabs, discounted up to $9,000 off. Great selection, Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville, right on I-40.
Hi, this is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
Sweet chocolate reward. Sweet chocolate reward.
This is not just the sound of someone picking up a sweet treat at Walgreens. This is the sound of someone picking up a sweet treat right after receiving all their vaccines in one trip. This is the sound of treating yourself, because you protected yourself.
Stop by or schedule both your flu and COVID-19 vaccines today and grab yourself a sweet treat while you're at it. Vaccine subject to availability. State, age, and health-related restrictions may apply.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZQuil.
ZQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZQuil nights. Explore our products at ZQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. The U.S. Energy Department is giving $3 billion to 25 companies to further boost U.S. production of advanced batteries, both for electric vehicles and for storing renewable energy on the grid. Companies getting funding will use it for projects such as building, expanding, and retrofitting facilities to build batteries and process critical minerals. Batteries are considered critical to reaching the administration's goal of net zero emissions by 2050. Johnson & Johnson is increasing what it's willing to pay to settle thousands of lawsuits by people who say its baby powder gave them cancer. Sources tell Bloomberg the offer is being hiked from $6.5 to $8.2 billion to settle all remaining claims. Under the new terms, plaintiffs could get bigger payouts and about $650 million in legal fees covered. J&J itself has declined to comment. Wall Street's indexes lower so far today. More than twice as many stocks down as up as the Dow loses 0.1%. NASDAQ and S&P 500 each down about a third. Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Radio.
Now back to We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicky Sawyer on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, welcome back to We're Just Saying. I am Senator Vicky Sawyer, and part of the show today is Judge Jefferson Griffin, and you can listen to us live, or if you are listening to us live on WSIC 105.9 FM, 100.7 FM, and 1400 AM. I got my two things in for the whole year now. So during the break, we're just having a conversation because it is a different animal politically to campaign as a judge. You guys are very, very restricted by, I guess, is it the judicial ethics?
Yeah, we have a judicial code of conduct.
Okay.
Yep.
Judicial code of conduct. So you are not allowed to opine or talk about any case that may or may not come in front of you. So how do you get your message across to voters as you're going from Murphy to Manio and tell them why you're the best choice? I mean, how do you get that message across?
It's challenging. We've gone to partisan races, so on the ballot you will see a D or an R next to your judicial candidates, which a lot of people wanted to travel in the state. A lot of people are glad now that they have some information about us. Otherwise, they would not. And a lot of people they're like, well, I don't know who these people are. What I didn't even know we elected judges. And they get to the ballot box, and so it's a lot of education on our part.
Yeah.
About, one, that we elect judges, two, why it's important and why we're the best person for that position. And so, we can't talk about issues that may come in front of us, but we can talk about our judicial philosophies. Mm-hmm. We talk about our backgrounds and what experiences we bring to the court. And I think, every judicial candidate should be able to explain their judicial philosophy. They should be able to tell you how they interpret the law. And I look at it as a conservative jurist, what that means for me is that I apply the law as it's written. I'm not going up there with any policy agenda, just like I am as a soldier. I don't swear an oath to a party or a person. It's to the Constitution. And I interpret the Constitution as strictly as I can, stay within my lane as a jurist, and leave the policy making to your branch of government.
So I oftentimes feel very, very conflicted about some of the language that we pass, because I reread it and I'm like, wait a minute, is that what we meant to say? Like, is that, and I know as the Court of Appeals that you guys more or less look at the structure to which the first trial was handled, not necessarily, I know you have to interpret the law a little bit, but I kind of have some empathy for you, because when the bill drafters go through and then you get, 170 opinions in the General Assembly about that final bill, how it actually works. I'm sure you guys scratch your head going, what was she talking about? What does this mean here?
No, and that's the way it works. I mean, y'all make the law, and then we have to interpret it. At the Court of Appeals, we're error correcting court, so we're looking for errors at the trial court. Sometimes we do have issues of first impression with statutory or constitutional interpretation, and we make those calls. The Supreme Court, we have 7 that sit there. They are the final word on that interpretation. So if sometimes at the Court of Appeals, if it's something that's that impactful, if it is something that they need to weigh in, it'll go up there for the final word on it. But yeah, I mean, if there's ambiguity in the law, sometimes you have to make that decision. Yeah. And the beautiful part about it is that y'all can come back and fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's a constitutional provision we're interpreting. Yeah. And in that case, the people can fix it. You can have a constitutional amendment.
Which we do.
We do from time to time.
Yeah, and we do have that one on the ballot right now. So so definitely check that out if you guys are, wanted to make sure that you understand the whole entire ballot. There is a constitutional provision on the ballot, which you see our government at work, right? I mean, that's something that we're doing. Okay, so if I'm asking you, why should I vote for you? I'm hearing you're saying you're a constitutional conservative and you interpret the law as such, and that you're a conservative judge. So what does that mean to you? Like,
right. So conservative and liberal mean different things to different people, like in different contexts, right? You could say politically, you could say socially, you could say, in this context, as a judicial conservative, it's like a battle between judicial restraint and judicial activism. And that's kind of where we live in that universe. I'd say, traditionally a judicial liberal would be more of an activist. They think that the words of the meaning of the words have changed over time. We should not look at it as the time it was written. And so myself as a conservative and somebody who practices judicial restraint, I'm saying it's not our role as jurists to put our spin on these words, to put any spin on this at all, because the people sent their elected representatives to the legislative body to enact these laws. And so interpreting as close to the intent that the people's elected representatives had is the most consistent for me. And I think that's the most consistent way that we can interpret the law as jurists, and not muddy the waters and move into the realm of policy making as a judge.
But we have seen that, and I know you can't necessarily comment, but I can. We have seen that, especially when the court was controlled by the Democrat majority. Gosh, was that 8 years ago? And
so more recent than that.
When was it? Oh, it was.
We just took back a conservative majority after the 22 cycle.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, thank you for the reminder.
Yeah. I remember every day of it.
I bet you do.
I remember every day.
I bet you do, because it's so frustrating when you do have those folks who act as like a lawmaker and a judge all in one. And that's not really how our body was designed.
They tried to turn the Supreme Court into a super legislature.
Yeah.
And all they needed was a 4-person simple majority out of 7. And I mean, they demonstrated that they were willing to go into the policymaking lane. Perfect example, which it's decided now, but the voter ID legislation in our state, and the litigation that went on for 10 years.
Yeah.
Even a constitutional amendment in the middle there. You
Yeah.
know, and then finally, until we had a Supreme Court that would follow the law,
Yeah.
then that we finally had voter ID.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I have locally had some folks very concerned about the law for voter ID, and they said, "Oh, you're just letting everybody, college students can do this. What a terrible law." And I'm like, guys, you know, it's progress. Don't make perfection the enemy of progress. We had to fight tooth and nail, and there's still, and you can't really talk about this, but there's still, I think, in the Fourth Circuit, a case that's out there about this law, and that we just very nervously waiting to see what's going to happen with that. But when you are talking about, you know, your approach to that and way at the past, you're also looking towards the future, and you want to make sure that we maintain a conservative justices on the appeals court as well as the Supreme Court.
Oh, absolutely. What we've been able to do in our courts the last 2 cycles has been transformational for our state.
Yeah.
From, I mean, if you have an activist judiciary, it's really a great threat to our form of government, because that's not the way it was intended. And so we've been able to bring back a conservative majority to our Court of Appeals, to our Supreme Court. And in my case, you know, we could go up and have 6 conservatives, which would be great, 6 out of 7. And I had a newspaper reporter ask me, he was like, "Well, what, you know, don't you think we should have more party parity or balance?" And I was like, "Well, no, because it's not a party thing.
Right.
It's a judicial philosophy thing. And North Carolinians want conservative jurists who are not activists.
Yeah.
It's not about our party. It's about how we interpret the law." And so, yeah, absolutely. I think North Carolinians would love to have a court that just interpreted the law and wasn't up there to make policy from the bench. And I don't know that they like that answer. I can't remember if he actually printed it because I thought it was pretty good.
That answer.
But yeah, but for us as conservatives, it's looking at the court ahead. We've got 3 seats up in 2028 and 1 seat up in 2026. So the majority of our court is always in the balance. These are not, you know, unfortunately, these are not races that we can take lightly ever.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yes, completely agree. And not until just recently, people would walk in and you wouldn't know if they were Republican or Democrat, or now that at least you walk in, you do have that kind of cue.
And I think people are participating more. And
Yeah.
I think there's evidence of that. And the best evidence is you look at the 2016 election. You know, people are like, "Well, you know, what about these parties on the ballot?" I was like, "Well, do you want more people voting?" Because that's what I hear all the time too.
Yeah.
In 2016, there was party labels on the Court of Appeals races, not on the Supreme Court race. Supreme Court race is above it on the ballot, and 250,000 more people voted in the Court of Appeals races than the Supreme Court race.
Really?
So that, yeah, like I don't know how you argue that people don't want that information.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best evidence that we have, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I actually like what you said about it's a judicial philosophy. And just because you guys are all would be Republican, it doesn't mean that you're going to always agree.
No, we disagree quite often.
Yeah.
And opinions I've written have been, you know, reversed or modified by other conservatives. It just means that our boundaries are tighter.
Yeah.
We're not going off the reservation about trying to make policy. We're trying to interpret it as closely as we can.
Yeah, very good. Well, you're listening to We're Just Saying. I am Senator Vicky Sawyer, and so happy to have Judge Jefferson Griffin here on the show talking about judicial philosophy. I mean, what else do you want to talk about other than on a Friday?
Yeah.
I know. Well, welcome. Please stay tuned until after the break on We're Just Saying.
There's more We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicky Sawyer on the way from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, drier weather making a comeback as we get into the upcoming weekend. Partly cloudy, low 80s for our Friday afternoon. A stray shower, not out of the question. Most of us will stay dry. Dropping back into the mid-60s overnight for our weekend. Fall starts officially on Sunday, although it's not going to be very falling. It'll be warm and humid. Mainly dry Saturday and Sunday with high temperatures for the weekend and low to mid-80s. The That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. This Friday night, the monthly car show Hot Rods and Hops returns to RevFast. The late Apex Storage Condos on Cayuga Drive in Mooresville welcomes the slickest and fastest cars, motorcycles, trucks, racing, and high-performance machines. Food trucks will be on hand for delicious dinners, and Hoptown Brewing will be serving up cold beer. Get your weekend started off right with Hot Rods and Hops this Friday night at 6 p.m. at the late Apex Storage Condos in Mooresville. Birkdale Village's Live Under the Oaks concert series is also happening on Friday night. Ryan Winters will be playing on the Birkdale stage in Huntersville beginning at 6 p.m. Food and beverages will be for sale at the many restaurants around the village. Grab your chairs and your friends for the Ryan Winters concert Friday night at Birkdale Village in Huntersville. Movie in the Park is happening September 20th in downtown Huntersville. The show at Veterans Park on Main Street and Maxwell Street is open to the public free of charge. Bring your blankets and lawn chairs for an evening under the stars with the showing of Space Jam on a big screen. Movie in the Park begins at 7:30 p.m. at Veterans Park in Huntersville on Friday. The NHRA returns to ZMAX Dragway this weekend for the Carolina Nationals. When the temperatures cool down, the excitement heats up at the Bellagio drag strips. Every ticket is a pit pass, giving fans unmatched access to the drivers and crews who power the NHRA's thunderous 11,000 horsepower machines to their limits. Visit CharlotteMotorspeedway.com for information, tickets, and details.
The Renaissance Festival is back Saturdays and Sundays, October 5th through November 24th. A non-stop outdoor family adventure. Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com while supplies last.
To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Now more We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicky Sawyer on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, welcome back to our final segment on We're Just Saying. I am Senator Vicky Sawyer, sitting here with esteemed, the honorable, the amazing, ever-talented, busy guy asking for your vote, Judge Jefferson Griffin for Supreme Court. I love this question because I look at all candidates running statewide with admiration, regardless, Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever, because it is a tough gig. I mean, it's something every day, I'm sure. Talk to me about what it's been like, because this is your second go around, right? Because Court of Appeals before and...
Right. I was a district court judge in Wake. It's almost easier to run statewide than it is countywide in Wake County.
Is it really?
Well, yeah, like in a county... You probably empathize with this. It's like, people assume that you can get to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And Wake County was bigger than a congressional district at the time, and you're just like, it takes an hour to drive across Wake County.
Yeah.
And so I know your county's growing, and your district is very, very, very busy as well. But, so statewide, you've got. I think we opened with efficiency. Like you got to be very efficient.
Yeah.
And having gone through it, you kind of know where to push the accelerator and pump the brakes but it's multiple things every day. It's with a statewide race, you could account for every minute every day, and you turn around and you're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Did I do anything? But we've been traveling a lot. I actually taught a continuing education class with Judge Zachary last night here in the area. And so a lot of outreach with the bar because people ask their lawyers who they should consider when it comes down to judicial races. Some endorsements are very important. Like I've been endorsed by the North Carolina Police Benevolent Association, North Carolina Fraternal Order Police, the Troopers Association here in North Carolina, professional endorsements. Yeah, I'm very honored to have those, worked with them in great capacities.
Yeah, to me, when you get that law enforcement nod as a judge, that doesn't come easy for them because they work day in and day out to put criminals behind bars. And they're going to want folks who are going to support them in their job and their role. And so getting that kind of law enforcement support is huge.
And it's very humbling. And just as my friends in the General Assembly that have supported our campaign, they also understand, like, I'm gonna do my job.
Yeah.
Like I'm not there to do anybody favors. I'm there to do my job, interpret the law, and they trust me to do that, and they
Yeah.
respect that. We're not gonna agree all the time. That's just the nature of being a judge, right?
Yeah.
Usually somebody in the room is not gonna be happy when we're making decisions.
Yeah.
But they have seen me work and been able to. We've had great relationships for a long time. So those are very beneficial. I just got endorsed by the Civil Defense Bar, the North Carolina Association of Defense Attorneys.
Wow.
Prior, I've been endorsed by the Plaintiffs Bar, so both of them. This
Yeah.
year, the Plaintiffs Bar, I don't think is doing endorsements, but I think it's impactful when two different groups within our profession recognize that we've done a good job and
Yeah.
are willing to step out and support us. And from a messaging standpoint, North Carolinians want conservative jurists.
Yeah.
I mean, the evidence is there. It's and the best evidence is our last two election cycles.
Mm-hmm.
When we are able to get that information to folks and say, do you want a conservative jurist that strictly has a strict interpretation of the Constitution, or do you want one that has a liberal interpretation?
Mm-hmm.
Close to 70% of North Carolinians that are asked want somebody who has a strict interpretation of it, and they associate that with being a conservative jurist.
Wow.
And so those are very impactful for people when they're out talking about our races.
Mm-hmm.
The conservative versus liberal judicial philosophy and how you frame that is very impactful. And like I said, the best evidence is in 2020, we won 8 out of 8 statewide races in our judiciary.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2022, won 6 out of 6.
Mm-hmm.
So North Carolinians do want conservative jurists
Yeah.
when we get them that information.
And something that you guys I thought was very smart politically is running as a slate. Sometimes I think, well, Republican on Republican violence in primaries are real and brutal and can be very.
There's nothing worse than a Republican primary.
Oh God, no!
It's brutal.
It is blood, full contact sport. But
It
I
is.
think you guys were very, very intentional and smart about kind of figuring out, a slate of candidates and sticking with that. Because then your messaging is the same all the way through from the primary to the general. And you do have a slate of candidates, right? We've already heard from Judge Valerie Zachary here, and then you, and there's a few others on the slate as well.
We do. One of my good buddies, Tom Murray,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
former legislator, served in the House. He's a state prosecutor, most recently pharmacist. He's in the Army National Guard with me. So right on point with what we are, judicial conservatives. Got the prosecutorial background. Our other candidate is Judge Chris Freeman. He's a district court judge in Rockingham and Caswell counties, former prosecutor. He's an Air Force reservist. It's kind of like the military. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I love my airmen.
We should have started out with a little military play.
Well, the thing that, and I was at an event this week, and I said it was a veterans lunch in Nash County with your colleague Senator Barnes, and I got up to speak, and I said, I'm God willing, I'll be on the Supreme Court next year when I come back to speak at this veterans lunch again. We've only got one veteran at the Supreme Court right now, Justice Allen, and he's a Marine. And so I need to go up there before he messes up too much stuff and clean it up. And we got a good kick out of the room on that one. We all, Justice Allen and I always have a good back and forth. I ask him if he's eating his crayons today.
Oh.
We have a good Army Marine rivalry.
Of course,
Yeah,
of course. And you don't even invite the Navy to play, do you?
Well, we don't have any in there. So
okay.
and then if you really want to get them, you just say the Marines are a branch of the Navy, and that really trigger them. We have and Judge Fred Gore at our court. He's a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserves.
Yeah.
Michael Stadding, who is fairly local. He was Mecklenburg County District Court judge. He's an Air Force reservist. So it's a joy to serve with fellow service members.
Yeah, and absolutely. And thank you for all that you do. And again, I think I hope that listeners are hearing from you, because I definitely have during this conversation, is that you're not there just to see your name in lights. You're actually there for the right reasons, to serve your country, and to serve your state through conservative principles. And
well, I hope that does come off. I mean, just like you, one day we'll be done with our service, and I'm honored to be able to do this. and well, we're really just stewards.
Yeah.
We're stewards of these positions. They're not ours.
Correct.
It doesn't, I think you feel the same way. This
Absolutely.
is not, they don't define who we are.
No.
There's things in life that are a lot more defining and more important.
Yeah.
Including obviously our families.
Yeah, for sure.
and our faith. And,
yeah.
And so it's, but it is extremely important. And I want people that are of backgrounds like ours and that care about service to be in these positions.
There are really, and you are exemplary and one good example of someone who's in this thing to do it the right way. And if you are supportive of Judge Jefferson Griffin, I have to say all three, I want you to go to his website, jeffersongriffin.com. You can learn a little bit more about him, see his beautiful wife and gorgeous kids, but also learn about his values and also how to support. Now, guys, you can do a financial donation to his campaign, or you can reach out and volunteer at a poll. I mean, we really do need folks to support our judicial candidates. And if you don't have the money to donate, you definitely may have the time and working a poll on election day or during early voting to hand out those judicial slate cards would be absolutely wonderful.
It's very impactful. And if you want to have a direct impact on a statewide race, I mean, obviously I'm a little biased, but the judicial races, you can have a outweighed performance there by somebody making any kind of donation or volunteering their time, because most people, like I said, it's hard for us to get information to folks. If you talk to anybody about a judicial race and say, I've heard from Judge Griffin, he's a constitutional conservative, he's going to protect the Constitution, and he's a great public servant, just that alone will be more information than most folks get about a judicial race. So please don't think that you if you reach out to your network alone, that is a huge impact in these judicial races statewide.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give you the best example, Vicki. When in 2020, the Chief Justice race in North Carolina, out of 5.5 million votes, was settled by 401 votes out of 5.5 million. I mean, that you think about it, and that was for control of a whole branch of government, the Chief Justice race.
Yeah.
And so please consider talking about these races and us, because I can't do it alone.
Right.
We talked about the challenges of statewide races.
Yeah.
I need people, surrogates throughout the state to help out.
You're right. So, if you do I know most of the listeners to the show has a heart for North Carolina and want to affect a statewide race. I've standing at a polling location, it seems like, I always dread it, but then I get there, I kind of get into the groove,
Oh, I love the retail politics out of it, and being there and the energy around elections, and I mean, it's if you love America, it's there's some good parts to it. There's obviously some that could make you a little disheartened part of it, but it is it's civic, it's patriotic.
Yeah, and it's so easy too, because I'll sit there and I can say, "Would you like the Republican, card?" And people are like, "No, I'm good. I got my things made up, my mind made up." But if you say, "Do you want a list of conservative judges?"
Boom.
They take it every stinking time. If you want to do that, you can reach out to your campaign and definitely they'll have some folks coordinate and help volunteer. And if you don't have the time, but you do have the money, I'm sure you wouldn't be opposed to having a donation or two.
Every dollar helps.
It does.
At the website jeffersongriffin.com, and literally we've been very successful putting ourselves in a position to win. We've worked hard, but we got to finish strong here, coming down into the short rows, as we say in Eastern North Carolina.
Well, Judge Jefferson Griffin, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us and to talk about your campaign, and we look forward to seeing you on the Supreme Court soon.
I hope you'll invite me back as a justice.
Oh my God, that'd be so incredible. We got to talk about some more fun stuff, though. Fishing is definitely on the table.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to We're Just Saying. I'm Senator Vicki Sawyer. Have a great weekend.
Serving you better than ever